Greetings everyone! Thank you for joining me here for another episode of Bobolog. My name is Bobby Olan and I am a knitter and Multicrafty maker coming to you from Victoria, Australia. I would first of all like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I live and create, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people. I would like to acknowledge them and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and future. Like I said, I am a knitter and Multicrafty maker. So this episode I have 3 knitting projects and 1 non-knitting project, which is a spinning project, to share with you. I also have a couple of little eye candy tidbits to share, just a couple of things that I somehow forgot to show you that I bought from Japan that I wanted to share on this. What else? You can also find me on Instagram at Platypus Knitting, and I am on Ravelry under my own name, Bobby Olan, if you want to follow along with me on either of those platforms. Let's see what else. Oh, the links to everything that I talk about will be in the description down below. If I have missed anything, please let me know and I will pop it in there. Is that everything that I need to do for housekeeping? I think so. So just very quickly, we'll just jump into eye candy as the first segment to show you the things that I got in Japan that I forgot to show last time. So the first one is just this cute little washcloth here, which has a little sheep on it, so of course I had to get it. I saw this in the stationery store Itoya, and I didn't really understand why they had these washcloth things there. But then I sort of realized, you know, the more time I spent in Japan, their public bathrooms don't really have dryers, hand dryers, like they have them at least here in Victoria, where like in a lot of bathrooms, at least in the shopping centre where I work, it's like every sink has its own hand dryer, which is probably a bit extreme, but it saves everyone having to queue up for 1 or 2 hand dryers. Anyway, most public bathrooms that I went to in Japan only had 1 hand dryer, and some of them didn't have any at all. And I noticed that a lot of women would come into the bathrooms with their own hand cloths. So I'm guessing what this is for, so, you know, they would just dry their hands. Anyway, the reason I got this and the reason I wanted to share it here is just because it has a sheep on it and I think it's cute. So that's number 1. And the last thing that I wanted to share from Japan is also a little sheepy thing. It's actually probably my favorite thing that I purchased while I was over there, so I am amazed that I somehow forgot to share it with you. And it was actually like a complete chance find. We had gone to another stationery store called Kakimori that was kind of out of the way. There wasn't really anything else around it. And I got a custom-made notebook there, and it took, I don't think it took an hour for them to make the notebook, but there was a little bit of time where we just sort of had to wait around. So I probably should have put together my notebook first, given it to them to make, and then looked around the store. But I looked around the store first and then I made my notebook, and then we had to wait around. But when we were sitting handicide the store waiting, I noticed that across the road there was this just tiny little leather handcraft store, and I think it caught my eye because I could see that they had bags and tubs of scrap leather that they were selling. And as a former traditional bookbinder who worked with leather to make books. It still is sort of like a material that I'm interested in, especially because I am wanting to get back into bookbinding because I do actually miss it. So I went in just to have a bit of a sticky beak, see what tools they had, see what leather they had, and I wasn't intending to buy anything, but on one of the stands at the front they had these little charms that I'm guessing that they would have made out of scrap, like little bits of leather, because they're so tiny, and one of them was a ram, so of course I had to get it. It is attached at the moment to the orifice hook that I got with my electric eel wheel, so it is this here. I know that the I'm filming on my iMac at the moment, and I know that it can't actually like focus in on objects that are close at hand, so that's, I wonder if I hide my face it will. No, I don't think so. I think it just can't, it doesn't have the same focusing capabilities as the phone, but I think I have a photo of it that I can put up here if you're not getting a good sense of what it looks like. But I think it's so cute. It's such a clever little like use of leather. It has a little bell, which is partly why I've got it on my orifice hook, because it's really fun when I use it to do a ply back test and the little ram just goes jingle, 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 jingle as I'm using it. So anyway, I love this. Yeah, I think it's fantastic, and I'm so happy that I stumbled across it. And that's it for eye candy. So the next segment is Handy Dandy, which is my big one where I talk about all of my current knitting projects. And the first one that I have to show you is actually a finished project, and that is the Haskins by Veronik Avery. It is, I'm just going to double check my notes here for all of the info on it. So the size range for this pattern, it's a men's sweater pattern. If you haven't seen any of my previous episodes where I've talked about it, I was knitting this for my partner, and it comes in the size range finished chest circumference of 30¼ inches to 63 inches, or 80 to 160 centimeters finished circumference. So is that size inclusive? I think it might just be, oh my gosh, I should have double checked this. So size inclusive patterns should go up to fitting a chest circumference of 60 inches, I believe. So the biggest size for this has a finished circumference of 63 inches, and it does give a recommended ease of 4 inches. So it kind of falls just short in that regard, but it comes pretty close. I knit it using the Bendigo Woolen Mills Classic 8-ply in the color Broadleaf, and I am so super happy with how it turned out. I gifted it to my partner just under 3 weeks late for his birthday, but he really, really loves it. He tried it on, it fits him really well. I think so he'd mentioned that he wanted a bit of a looser fitting sweater than the one that I'd previously made him. So I picked the pattern that was going to give a circumference with 20 centimeters of positive ease instead of 10, which is what I usually go for, but I think my gauge was a little bit tight anyway, so it was going to fall somewhere between 110 and 120 centimeters. But because I picked the bigger size, the shoulders are just a wee bit wide on him, so the points of the shoulders are just a little bit down the tops of his shoulders, but it looks fine. I recently watched a class that I bought years and years and years ago on Craftsy and had never actually bothered to watch, which is Knit to Flatter by Amy Herzog. It was such a good class, so valuable. I took lots of notes and I feel like I understand things a lot better now. So if I were to knit this again, I would have knit a smaller size and just done modifications to get me a wider circumference, so those shoulders would have sat better on him. Anyway, I've completely like thrown myself off because I hadn't planned to mention that. What was I going to say? Yeah, so a few final notes on working that project. So I don't know if I'd mentioned this before, but my row gauge for the stockinette stitch sections was actually different from the row gauge I was getting in the Haskins pattern section, which made it a bit tricky to like figure out to judge lengths. I wasn't sure if I should be knitting it to the length based on the stockinette section, but they were only side panels, so then I wasn't sure if I should be matching the lengths for the main pattern section. I think I ended up just going for like the in-between length of the two, and it seemed to work out well. So, but that was an interesting sort of issue, and I feel like I don't know how to count stitches on cables properly, or I just don't know how to count rows on cables properly when measuring. So if anyone has any advice on that, I'd really appreciate it, because according to the pattern, the stockinette stitch row gauge and the pattern row gauge should be the same. And the next project that I'm going to talk about, Dione, I'm having the same issue where the stockinette stitch and the cable pattern row gauge should be the same according to the pattern, but I'm getting different things, which makes sense to me because, I mean, because cables have crossing stitches, they pull in, so they're narrower than stockinette stitch, but like, because they're pulling in, aren't they also like not just doing that, aren't they kind of doing like, you know, like that? So they're shortening and narrowing as well as they're shortening as well as narrowing. Is that right? Am I understanding that right? Or maybe I'm just not counting my stitches properly. Anyway, what else did I want to mention? One thing that I did find kind of tricky was binding off in pattern. So the pattern uses cables, little narrow cables, increases and decreases. And when I did the first bind off for the back, the whole back, I got a bit confused doing it in pattern, and when I finished, I had the right stitch counts, but it all kind of looked a bit like loose and sloppy. So when I did it again for the front piece, I did the bind offs in pattern, but I just skipped doing any of the increases, and it gave me like a much cleaner, much nicer finish. But then when I went to seam it all together, even though my stitch counts were correct when I bound off the back piece, the shoulder section for the back piece was wider than for the front piece. And I don't just mean wider in that it was like looser, it was wider. So I was trying to match the patterns. So, you know, so that the patterns would meet each other on the shoulders. They are, you know, like offset by a half a stitch, just because of the way that seaming two pieces of fabric that were knit in opposite directions works. So they are a bit offset, but I wanted them to match, and there was like, it was like, how do I say this? So say this is the back piece and I'm matching these three bits, but then my shoulder seam, where my shoulder shaping finished was here, but on the front piece, my shoulder shaping finished here. So it was kind of like, there was like an extra little bit where it still sloped up just for maybe 3 stitches, and then it was like the bind off for the neck. I prioritize matching up the pattern, so I had that little flap, but then it did mean that when I let me show you what I mean. When I did the neck band, it kind of, there was that extra fabric there, so the neck band, I'll just show you. I'll show you what I mean. So it should like sit flat like that at the back, right? But when I'm laying it flat, it kind of actually like bends forward like that because there is a little bit of extra fabric at the back here. And when you're looking at it like this, it seems really extreme. I don't know if you're getting a good sense of like, yeah, how much extra fabric there is there. And like when I just look at it like this, I don't love it. But when he tried it on, it was actually okay. It, like this section here, where your, I have no idea what the camera's seeing right now, but where your spine kind of like goes into the neck bit and you have that little bit of a bump. Like he doesn't, it's not like he has a hunchback. He definitely doesn't. He just has like a normal, it looks normal, but that little bit of extra fabric actually just like hugs it and sits on it really well. I did say though that if he ever feels like this is like pushing too much into his neck, then I will fix it for him, but he said he was really happy with it. So yeah, I think that was all the notes I had to share on Haskins. Let me show you the whole thing, and I will actually try it on because my partner and I have the same chest circumference, so it makes it kind of easy to be able to try on sweaters that I make for him, just to see how the chest kind of fits, even though we obviously have very different body shapes. Anyway. Oh, the other thing that I want to mention is that it used a little under 4 balls of the yarn, and they are 200-gram balls. So I think it used, it'll be on my Ravelry notes, but it used 700 and something. That's so helpful. 700 and somewhere around 750. Yeah, maybe just see, check on my Ravelry. But yeah, you can see, so this, the sleeves, which are ridiculously long on me, they go up to his wrist properly. You can see that the shoulders are quite big on me. They're quite wide. They're not that extreme on him, but they are wider, and yeah. I'm just going to let in a little bit more light just to show you. That is project number 1. The second handy dandy that I wanted to talk about just briefly is the PokaPoka hat. So that is by Kiyomi Kiyomi and Sachiko Burgin from the Moon and Turtle magazine. And I don't have a lot to say in this because there isn't a lot of progress on it, mainly because, well, I was focusing on getting that jumper finished, but also because this is just like simple stockinette stitch in the round, small project. I have kind of been saving it for when I go on walks, but then I forget to take it on most of my walks. And sometimes when I'm walking, like I want to hold just really light weights as well, just to give my arms a bit of an extra workout, or, you know, I think it's going to be like too cold to be knitting. So I haven't really brought it with me on walks that often, so there isn't a lot of progress to share with you. But I'll show you all I have done. That much, which is like nothing. I think it's maybe double or triple the length it was when I last showed you. I can't even remember when I last showed it to you. But that's that there. That is being knit on Fiddlesticks socks. That's the yarn label. And oh, I didn't say, it is, the size range is 46.5 to 55 centimeter circumference, or 18.25 to 21.75 inches. I'm pretty sure I'm making the biggest size. And I am knitting this on my Addy Novel Long Crazy Trio knitting needles, which is a bit tricky when walking, but they're 3 millimeters, and I don't have 3 millimeter circulars, at least not in this circumference. I only have 3 millimeter circulars in a really long circumference, which I feel like would have been even more inconvenient when walking. So yes, I have had this in a few different bags because I haven't quite found one yet that has been really comfortable and easy to use while walking. After my last walk, I have switched it into a new case, which I will show you now, but I haven't actually tried walking with this, but I just wanted to share. It's this Aesop case that I think when my partner got a travel set from Aesop one time, it came in this case and he was just going to throw it out, and I liked it, so I kept it. It's a bit like, it's not super hard, but it's definitely like firm and holds its shape. It is a bit short, so if you can see in there, the yarn is a bit taller than it, so when it is closed up, it is a bit squashed, but I like that it's hard and will hold its shape. It has this little pocket in here, which just became a handy place to put my row counter. This one is from Twill and Print, and I like this quote that's in here as well. Somewhere something incredible is waiting to be known, Carl Sagan. And I like that it holds its shape, because in its bag, when I have been knitting so far, this just like compresses and gets really squashed, and it doesn't feel great pulling the yarn off it when it's in that state. So this, because it is wider and will hold its shape in the bag, I'm just hoping that helps like preserve the yarn, and it's not gonna have as much friction pulling against itself when I'm working with it. So we'll see how that goes. I hope it works out well. Was that all that I had to say about the PokaPoka? No. So I forgot to mention when I talked about this last time that I am actually intending to enter this into a make-along by Fibre Bound. So Alia Fibre Bound is hosting a year-long make-along for using your sock yarn. Is it? I think she said you could use you can use it to make anything. It just has to be yarn that you could use or would use to make socks. But I can't actually remember now if you have to make things other than socks with the sock yarn. But it's a year-long make-along, and she is drawing minor prizes every quarter, I believe, and a major prize at the half-year mark and the end-of-year mark for people who have knit who have started and finished a project within each calendar month. I am definitely not doing that. I also may have some of these details wrong, so please head over to her vlog and check all of that information for yourself if you're interested in joining. She's a really good vlogger. She's really good about getting like lots of shots, and she sets them up beautifully, and she works on beautiful projects, and she's just a lovely person. So yeah, so that's that. So the last project that I have to share, there's actually quite a bit that I want to talk about with it. So let's just get into it, shall we? So this is Dione by Natasja Hornby. It is in, again, it is not quite a size inclusive pattern. So the size range is 81.5 to 146 centimeters, or 32.5 to 58.25 inches. And yeah, so it falls a couple of sizes, or maybe, yeah, I'd say at least a couple of sizes short of being size inclusive. I am knitting the size medium. Before I before I watched Knit to Flatter, I would have picked the large size, but yeah, based on Amy's recommendations for choosing sizes for your body, I am knitting a medium, and I am making a heap of modifications to it. So what should I say? Yeah, so I got gauge on that one. For the main body of the sweater, the recommended needles was 4mm, and I got gauge on a bigger needle, which is 4.5. I am keeping it in this project bag here from Crystal Cat Stitchery, and one of the things I have in here in oh, hang on, something is catching. In this matching pouch, again, obviously from Crystal Cat Stitchery, since it is matching, I have the swatches. So that is my last swatch that I did. So this end here, which is like a bit of a more, less dense, more comfortable fabric. I wish it was a little bit drapier, to be honest, but I got gauge, so considering I'm doing so many modifications to it, I'm happier right now to work with the needle size that gives me gauge, rather than go another needle size up and try to get something that's a bit drapier. It will be, I don't know what I was going to say there. Anyway, yeah, so I got gauge on the stockinette stitch portion. I have not actually got gauge on the cable portion, which is most of the jumper. So again, I would really love your recommendations on how to count stitches when you are measuring cables. So let me just double check again what I am getting. So I am getting 20, 26, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, I'm getting like 34 stitches 34 stitches in 10 centimeters, and the pattern I'm pretty sure called for 30 stitches, and I mean I can get that if I like, you know, give it a really good stretch and then measure it before it relaxes back into the shape it just naturally wants to settle at. And maybe I should have blocked it more aggressively, but I still think it wouldn't have relaxed to give me the right gauge. And yeah, so when you're measuring cables, do you count like the purl stitch in between your cables even though it's not visible? Like this little panel here, for example, I know, like the pattern, according to the pattern, it is 6 stitches across. So you would count that as 6 stitches, right? That's right? So, but yeah, the other thing is, if I fully stretch it that way, I think then, does that mess with my row gauge or does it get me closer to my row gauge? I can't actually remember. I have this written down somewhere and I could check, but I can't be bothered right now. Yeah, so I think I'm getting more stitches across and more stitches. You know what? I'm just going to check because I'm going to show you this anyway. I was planning to show you this anyway, so I may as well just look at it now. Let's see. I got yeah, so I did get more rows and more stitches. So you would think I should just go up a bigger needle size just for the cables, and really, I mean, what's more important, right? Because most of the jumper is going to be cables, but there will be some reverse stockinette stitch panels down the sides. So I obviously, in one row, I can't switch from, you know, one size needle to another size needle. So this is going to be annoying. I'm going to have to do the swatch for the cables, just the cables in a bigger size needle, aren't I? Yeah, I think I'm going to have to do that. I should be good because I want to get this right. My other option, though, is... No, you know what? I'm going to go with my other option. So this pattern recommends 2 inches of positive ease, but because the patterns, I think there are like 4 inches difference between each size, I would either have to go with one that's really fitted, or I have to go with one that's going to give me 4 inches of ease. So I'm going with the one that is giving me 4 inches of ease, but because my gauge here is tighter, I could probably do the math, but I'm hoping that that will be enough to like give to like pull it in that little bit more so that my ease isn't as big and matches more closely what the pattern recommends. And you know what? Let's just do a little bit of math. Why didn't I do this when I was planning? I think at my gauge it is actually going to lose 5 centimeters front and back, which means it will lose 4 inches overall. Which is going to be too much. So I really should swatch in the bigger needle size. I will swatch in the bigger needle size and see how that goes. And if I'll let you know in the next episode what I choose to do with that, because I have a lot more to talk about, so I should just keep going. What else did I want to say? Oh yes, the yarn that I'm using. I think I shared this last time, but I should make an effort to give you all of the information in every episode in case you're not watching every single episode. So I am knitting this in Tandy yarn. So the top part of the sweater I am doing, and I have actually started it. Here it is. I have done the short row shaping. This is Tandy's 8-ply Origins in the Lime Mortar colorway. And then for the body of the sweater, I am knitting it in one of their hand-dyed yarns. The label just had number 65 on it. So I don't know if they have dyed more and have given it the same number, or if each batch just gets a new number. But I'm pretty sure this is close to another regular colorway that they have, not a hand-dyed one, a commercially dyed one that they have called Mallard. I'm not 100% sure on the colors though, but I'm pretty sure when I asked them to dye this, I asked if they could match the Mallard colorway. I'm pretty sure, because they had completely sold out of it when I wanted to buy this yarn. So yes, so the body of the sweater is going to be in this gorgeous, gorgeous Mallard colorway that just makes me so happy to work with. So that is the yarn. What else is on my notes? Yes, I've said my needles and all of that kind of thing. Okay, so I do want to show you I thought this would be a nice opportunity to share how I set up my projects. So actually before that, I wanted to mention that I am going to be entering this into the Colors of Fall knit along, and I am using the color palette, I believe it's New York Fall Winter 2024 to 25, and the color is Aventurine, which really closely matches that beautiful hand-dyed color. So yes, moving on to how I set this up, I use the ATracker app to time all of my knits, because I just like knowing how long projects take me to make. And I had some interest in this app a little while ago, so I thought that I would share my projects in it with you. This is the ATracker app. You can see here that I have a couple of projects that I'm currently working on at the top, and then some regular other categories that I have. So if I just tap on the top icon, the one that's like the little clipboard at the top there, that gets me into all of these tasks, and I can show you the details with them. So I put the name in myself, obviously. I chose the icon. It has a lot of icons here, as you can see. There are some crafty related ones, but not many. I have fun choosing the icons. It's can be pretty tricky to not use the same ones over and over again. And I chose this diamond one because the pattern, I guess, because it's going to be, how's it going to be? It's going to be that way. So I think I was just like, yeah, that kind of looks like the base of a diamond. I don't know. Anyway, and then you can choose your color. Usually I just pick something from this palette here, but for this project, because it does feel like a bit of a special one, I tried to pick something that was more accurate. And then I have a few tags that I have set up here. I'll show you how I use them soon, but so I have current, and then in this projects one I have I need to remove Haskins from this, but I have projects that I'm working on set up in my tags as well. I don't use the goals because I don't feel like that really applies. That's really like a productivity thing that I don't really need. I do use this timer alert function because I am trying to be good about taking breaks with my knitting to like do arm stretches, excuse me, to do arm stretches and get up, get a drink, move around, and not just be sitting knitting until my arms are too sore to knit anymore. So I have set it at half an hour. Sometimes I'll like tweak it just to like an odd number just to, I don't know, change things up a bit. But yeah, so half an hour, and then I just have it active. I don't use any of these other features here. And then when the project is done, if I turn active off, you will see that it's no longer in this list of all of my projects, but I can find it again in all tasks. And let's make it active again because it's obviously still going. If I go to the center icon at the top here, this is where I set up my tags. So in this projects one here, whenever I have a new project, I can just do a new line and type that in. So while we're here, I'm just going to remove Haskins. Ooh, actually, I might just leave it because I don't know. I just don't want to mess with it right now. Anyway, cancel. Yeah, so that just means if I go back and out here, for example, when I do a cast on, actually, let me do it this way. What am I doing? No, not create task. If I go to history, yes, and I hit this timer icon at the top, and let's just say I did cast on, and I start it now, or no, I finish it now, and I started it 15 minutes ago, just for example's sake. And so when I tap on the task to log it, it looks like that it's selected all of the projects, but then the way that I have it set up is I can just choose a project and it'll choose only that project, and that'll be done. So then when I press the filter icon, I can choose to filter by tags, or sorry, by option, Dione, and then I can change the dates here as well. Whoop. Oh, yeah, 2024, that doesn't work. And then hit OK, and you can see all of my tasks that I've logged that have the tag Dione. So that includes all the cast on, setup, blah, 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 that are tagged Dione and the project Dione, because I've tagged it with itself, obviously. Yeah, so let's delete today's one because we don't actually need that. The other thing that I wanted to show you with how I use this app is I had previously mentioned that I like this app as well because it had a watch complication, and it was so much easier when I'm knitting to be able to tap on my watch that I have started, or that I'm stopping it to take a break or whatever. But I found out recently that the watch sees knitting as steps, even though, you know, I'm not exercising, and there is no way to not have it see knitting as steps unless you turn fitness tracking off. And it's more important for me to have fitness tracking on my watch than it is to be tracking projects on my watch, because I can do that on my phone as well. So the way that I have used this app has changed a little bit recently because of that. I now have to remember, annoyingly, to take off my watch when I am knitting, and then to remember to put it back on when I'm finished knitting. So how I use it now is there are a couple of different ways. So you can see on this screen here that I have sort of my regular tasks at the top here. So they are the ones, I gave them a tag. So I have this widget. I have this widget set up just to show the tasks that are tagged with whatever that I used for that tag, and then below it where you can see Dione and PokaPoka, they are tasks that I have tagged current. So yeah, so if I tap on Dione on that, it'll automatically open the app and get Dione running. And the good thing about using it that way as well is if my phone turns off and I just look at the home screen, you can see it. Sorry, that stopped recording, so I just had to start the recording again. When my phone turns off, I can see it timing here on this screen, and then I can just tap it to take me back and I can stop it. I have set it up so that if I stop timing in under a minute, it won't count that time, but you can have it count that time if you want to. The other way that I have it is on this screen here, which I think the phone calls the control center. I have down at the bottom, I can make this smaller or bigger, but I always have it bigger. I have all of the tasks there, and this one is really good because I can access this screen when without having to unlock my phone, so that makes it really easy. This one won't open the app when I tap on it, it will just get it going, but I do like using it because when I have turned it off, it'll keep, you won't be able to see it here now, but it'll keep the log next to each project of how much time I have spent on it that day. I haven't worked on anything today, so you can see that there is nothing here. But the thing with that one is it then won't appear on this screen. I can't see it on this screen, but because it's so easy to just swipe across and see it going there, it's not really a problem. So those are the kind of two main ways that I have been accessing and using the ATracker app. The next thing that I wanted to share with you is how I have set up this project in my notebook. So I am using this Kakimori notebook here. So this is the one that I mentioned before that I had to wait around for them to make up for me. You go in, you choose a board that you want for the cover, and then a board that you want for the back. You can choose, I think, to make either an A5 or a B6, and I chose the B6. They have a few different options for how to close your notebook. I picked this one here, and they also had a couple of different options for how to do the binding, the spiral binding as well. I've never had a spiral bound notebook that has this kind of arrangement where it's just top and bottom, so I thought I'd give that a try. And as you can see here, I'm using my Pilot Prera fountain pen with it. Let's just remove that for a sec. And I'll show you, this is the first project that I'm using this notebook for, and I'm really excited about it. So the other thing that you get to do when you make this notebook is they have like a few different types of pages that you can choose to put in it, and you can choose 4 bundles. So the bundles that I chose were grid. It's very faint lines, so I don't know how well that's showing up there grid, Tomo River paper. I chose 2 bundles of that, and then I just chose this craft paper. It's not exactly craft. I can't remember if they called it like a washi. It's very thin. It's very fine. I'm not sure what I will use that section for, but for this project, how I have decided to use this is, oh, and then they also give you an envelope. I chose to put the envelope at the front of the book instead of the back of the book, and right now in it I just have the yarn tags for the project that I'm working on, and also a little post-it that I have on my swatch notes, because yeah, I wrote them on a post-it. Anyway, so I am using the grid sketch section for working out all of the mods and everything that I wanted to do, so just all the calculations and all the changes that I want to make. So the very first thing is that I did a little doodle of the sweater, and then I just stuck this tracing paper over the top of it so that you can see where all of these different measurements are being taken. So sweater, hope it's coming up well enough. Yeah, and then I have in this column here all of the measurements for the size that I'm choosing to make, and then just quick notes here on all of the things that I want to change. So just to let you know what they are, I needed a bigger upper arm circumference, so I've just noted that I need to figure out how to use the instructions for one size bigger. And then I said I need to have a narrower wrist, so I need to work out how to get down to a wrist for size 1 or extra small, instead of size 3, size medium. I want to shorten the yoke depth by about 3 centimeters. I need to shorten the armhole to hem depth by 3 to 6 centimeters. I'll see how that, because it's a top down in the round sweater, so I'll be able to sort of judge that as I go, but that will definitely need to be shorter. And then lastly, second lastly, the sleeve actually needs to be about 10 centimeters shorter than what the pattern calls for. And lastly, so this pattern has the option to do the body straight or to give the body some very slight V shaping, so it tapers in very slightly to the hem. For my size, the finished circumference with the V shaping for the size that I am making is actually right, but I want to give it just a wee little bit of waist shaping, so it's gonna go like in a little bit for the waist and then out just a smidge, just to hit that same circumference for the hem again, and that is the last modification that I'm making. So on the next size over, I've listed my gauge there, and then in pencil here I read through the whole pattern and made notes about all of the things that I have to change, that I have to do differently to get all of these mods that I want to put in. That took me a few hours, but I am pretty confident with where it's at, and yeah, I'm really excited about that. So that is what I have used the grid pages for. And then on the Tomo River paper section, I have attached a little page. I've made this project page that I have printed where I have just filled in a bunch of basic information about the pattern, and I have attached a bit of yarn here. I made this project page ages ago, so I haven't filled out this little doodle section because I did the little doodle in the grid part, but that's that there, and then I'm able to use the yarn as a bookmark as well. And then I also made, I took a bit of I ripped out a page from another notebook which has a 4mm dot grid, and I ruled all of these lines so that I could sit it underneath the Tomo River sheet so that I could write in straight lines and, you know, rule my columns neatly and all of that kind of thing. And then it's still a nice clean page when that little guiding sheet is gone. Yes, so that is that. I am very, very excited about it. And yeah, let's hope it goes well. Okay, that was a lot. That was a lot to get through. Let me just make sure that's everything that I wanted to say about Dione. Yes. Okay, I have been recording for a while, so sorry about the really long episode, but I do have a little bit more that I wanted to say. So let's get into some Multicrafty. So I just wanted to mention briefly that I have been spinning. It is currently the Tour de Fleece, which, as you may guess, runs alongside the Tour de Force. So it is meant to end when the Tour de Force ends, but I am not going to finish in that time, so I will continue this project until the end of Tour de Femme, and I will just call that whole time Tour de Fleece for me this year. And yes, so in my previous episode, if you watched it, I mentioned that I wanted to spin using some fibre that I bought from Tandy, but when I was getting ready to start this spinning project, I realized that I wanted to spin that fibre as a heathered yarn, which requires like a bit of blending, and the only tool that I have to blend with is this flicker here, which is pretty small, and it would take me forever to blend 100 grams of fibre just using this. So I have decided that I will hold off on that project until I can get myself a drum carder, and instead I have decided to use fibre from Eggshell Bunny, which I'm happier about anyway because I'm using a spindle from Lair of the Bearded Dragon, who is associated with Eggshell Bunny, so I thought it was a better match to be pairing those together for the first time that I am using that tool. So I'm using the Fibre Shetland Dream, which is a Shetland silk cashmere blend in the colorway Ankh-Morpork, and I am spinning a fractal for the first time. I am spinning with a Jalagan spindle for the first time, and I am trying to use, or am learning to use a distaff for the first time, but since I don't have an actual distaff, I have just been using my Niddy Noddy. If you, did I mention I'm going to be spinning this fibre as a fractal for the first time as well. So yeah, if you want to see how I split the fibre for my fractal, then I do have a video. I'm actually trying to log my whole spinning journey. I'm not filming the whole time I'm spinning because that would be way too long. But each day that I spin, I'm filming at least a little bit of it so that I can share my progress and my journey on that. And they're kind of slow spinning videos just to give people a bit of company if they want that. There's no talking in it. It's just me spinning. But yeah, I did show how I prepped my fibre, how I very sloppily wrapped the distaff, but I am really, really happy with how it's going. I'm finding it's working really well. I have, let me just pull it out for you and just show you quickly. Can you tell I love Crystal Cat Stitchery? This is another one of her bags. And this is my Niddy Noddy distaff, which is the Niddy Noddy from Bendigo Woodturners. I am getting pretty close to the end of the first ply. That's the Jalgin there. I am not great at winding on, it's not too bad, but I've never had a proper Nosta pin as well, so I don't have a lot of experience in winding it. But I am sort of doing this as a semi-woolen, which is also the first time I have done it, aside from when I did beginner's spinning class, and they just sort of got us to try. I tried long draw once in that class while I was doing that class, and I found it really difficult. So this is semi woolen. It's like a forward long draw, sort of, yeah, for a forward long draw, which is when I am pulling the fibre. I'm pulling the spun section pretty close to the fibre, and when I so I spin the jallican and then I untwist a little bit and pull. Untwist a little bit and pull, and it catches some of the fibre, and then I let go and allow the twist to enter into the bit that I have pulled out. But I am not like drafting it out myself. I'm allowing the fibre to draft itself. Yeah, and I'm finding that really fun. I'm enjoying how sort of fluffy this yarn is turning out. I'm really enjoying seeing the colors blend into each other and change as I go along. And so I'm really loving using the Niddy Noddy as a distaff, but it is also dangerous because when I have been wearing it on a belt, or just sitting it on my hip, and it's resting in my arm like this, sometimes without thinking, I just like bring my arm in and I whack myself in the head. This point is probably the closest it came to my eye, and I feel very lucky that I have not smashed my glasses or whacked myself in the eye or done something that's a lot more harmful than I have. So that's a danger with it. But I really am loving it because I have also realized this bottom portion I can wedge between the couch cushions on my couch, and that kind of holds it in place and leaves this arm that was previously supporting it free. So when I am spinning sitting on the couch instead of standing up, it is safer. I can also draft longer because I can lean further away from the distaff. So that is my favorite way of spinning, but I am trying to mix it up and sometimes stand, and I don't use a belt a lot of the time. I wear my spinning apron and I just sort of tuck it into the ties on the spinning apron. But yeah, I'm trying to mix it up and do both. But it would be really great to have a Niddy Noddy where I can remove these end pieces, because then I could remove the top one and not have it be such a dangerous tool. I'm loving the sticking it in the couch thing so far, so much that when I first started spinning this, I was really enjoying it, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to go to the Bendigo sheep show and pick up a proper distaff But now I'm just like, oh, it's just so easy with the nitty noddy to just stick it into the couch and use it that way. So now I don't know if I should invest in a proper distaff or just, you know, keep using what I have because it has been working for me. So yeah, was that all that I wanted to say about that? Yeah, that's all that I had to say about the spinning. There was one more thing that I just wanted to mention before I get into my last quick segment. I'm aware that I have been talking for a long time, but if I keep putting things off into, you know, next episode, I'll never get through everything, or else I'll one day end up having an episode that's like 2 hours long. So I'm just going to mention this. It shouldn't take this long. This is just a little craft for thought that I wanted to mention because I recently sort of got interested in sketchnoting because I've always been interested in learning how to doodle. I cannot draw, but I wish that I could doodle, and I've always been sort of intimidated about trying. I bought a book once on doodling, but I did not find it helpful at all. It was more like, here are a bunch of examples of like dozens and dozens and dozens of different things and just draw them this way. It wasn't really like helping me learn how to draw things. It was just like, draw this way. So I didn't find that very helpful. And then, so sketchnoting is an idea that I've been aware of for a really long time, but because the idea of it is to visually make notes of, like, you know, lectures or books or whatever, and that wasn't really what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to doodle in my diary. I'd sort of always ignored the concept because I didn't feel like it was right for me. But then for some reason I started looking into it recently, and then I found a channel called Verbal to Visual. I think the guy's name is Doug Neal, and I have watched a whole lot of his videos now, and I was really enjoying them and getting really into them. And he has a lot where he talks about where he's helping you learn how to sketchnote, and he has a few really good videos on doodling, which I found so much more helpful than the book I got. But he also sketchnotes some books that he's read, and there was one, so he has a video on the book Stretch by Scott Sonnenschein, and there was just one little snippet of an idea in that I really liked, and sort of like made me think a little bit about yarn. So I just thought I'd mention it here and share it with you. So it's the idea of resource squandering, where so it's the idea that the more resources you have, the more you're going to improve, the more you're going to be able to do what you're doing better. But eventually you will reach a plateau where if you continue to accumulate more sources, your rate of improvement with what you're doing with those resources will decrease, because you have such an extreme abundance of the things, then you're not using them well. And yeah, I thought that just was like, what am I trying to say? It just felt so like such a perfect way to think about my yarn stash, that, you know, you accumulate all of these beautiful things, all of these beautiful yarns, so that when projects come up that you want to make, you have this amazing library of things to choose from, and that will enable you to make all of the things that you want to make. But then I have been feeling like, you know, I've hit a point where like I feel like I can't remember everything that I have, or that, I mean, I do a pretty good job of keeping my stash up to date in Ravelry, but then because I have like earmarked so many yarns for projects. Sometimes when I am thinking about a new project and I think, oh, I have this yarn that would be great for it, I go and look at Ravelry and I see that I've assigned it to some other project, and then I feel like I can't use it. So is it then sort of like detrimental, or is it just, you know, is the problem there more that I should be giving myself more freedom than that I have too many things? But yeah, it does start to feel like, you know, you go to all these shows, you go to stores, you see all the beautiful things that like indie dyers are making and that, you know, different yarn companies are producing, and you just want to get everything, but then you're not using it, so you just keep getting more, and that feels to me like resource squandering. So at least for me, I felt like it was a very sort of fitting idea, and I guess like it's something that I want to think about when so I am going to the Sheep and Wool show, which will be next weekend, so in about a week and a half. So I do kind of want to have that idea just in the back of my head to sort of help me resist temptation and accumulating more yarn when I have so much yarn that I do really want to use for projects that I have in mind. And if I don't want to just buy yarn just because I think it's amazing. I want to be intentional about it. I want to like have a project that I want to make with that yarn. Yeah, and not just like buy it and then just let it sit in my stash for ages, calling out my name, and me just ignoring it constantly. Yeah, so anyway, I thought that was a really good idea, a really interesting idea from that author. But yeah, I heard about it through verbal to visual. So if this whole sketchnoting thing sounds interesting to you, or yeah, I mean, I just check him out if you're interested. I think he does his videos really well, and he shares a lot of really good stuff. So that is verbal to visual. I had something in, okay, yeah, so my very last segment that I always like to end on is Heartful of Craft. And the thing that I am grateful for this past month is kind of just like multi-craftiness, but sort of hand in hand with the fact that I'm trying to fix my sleep. So basically, I think I explained in the last episode how I had ridiculous, terrible, completely uncalled for jet lag coming back from Japan, which is only an hour time difference from Victoria. So there really shouldn't be jet lag, but it really prompted me to try to fix my sleep. So one of the things that I am doing with that is I now have like a stricter bedtime and a stricter wake up time. So instead of going to bed late, lazy, like what do they call it, revenge bedtime procrastinating on my phone, so sleeping really late and then sleeping in for ages whenever I can, I'm now like waking up early, going to bed at a set time, to try to make sure that I'm actually asleep for the time that I'm in bed. Anyway, all of that to say, I do feel like I have a couple more hours in my day, and I have also been making an effort, because Tour de Fleece is on, I've been making an effort to spin, at least a little bit most days. I haven't been that great about it, but I have been finding that on the days when I spin and knit, I like, when at the end of the day, I just feel so much better about myself. I feel like I don't like saying, I'm trying to avoid saying that I feel productive, because I don't really like the idea that I should always be producing even though I feel productive. So I'm going to say that I get to the end of the day and I feel a lot more accomplished, and I feel just a lot more satisfied with what I have managed to do that day. And I'm sure part of that is because I have more time in the day to do things, but I definitely also feel good when I have done, you know, some of this kind of craft and some of that kind of craft, and it hasn't been all of the same thing. It feels like I'm, you know, gradually making progress with multiple things that I want to be doing, instead of just pigeonholing myself so much into mainly one project and one craft. So yeah, that's what I'm grateful for. Yeah, it's been really fun, and I hope that you have had fun or enjoyed yourself spending your time here with me today. Thank you so much. Especially, no, I shouldn't say especially, thank you to everyone who has been, you know, joining me on this journey for a while now, but also thank you to anyone who is new and who has subscribed to me recently, or, you know, has just been has recently joined me on this journey. I'm so grateful to all of you for spending your time here with me today. I know that my episodes can be quite long, so I really appreciate you giving some of your precious time to me, and I hope that you continue to follow me along, and I would love to hear from you in the comments. I'd really appreciate it if you could also hit the like button if you have enjoyed your time with me today, or if you've gotten anything out of all of my rambles and everything that I've had to share with you. And yeah, if you feel like it, a subscribe would be nice too, but do what you want. Anyway, I should let you go because I have been talking for long enough. Thank you again. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I will try not to let it be another month before I film again, but we will see. And yeah, I guess I will see you next time. In the meantime, I hope that you find time for self-care, for crafting, for your loved ones, and for yourself. Fare thee well.